Good morning, North Point family. I wanted to start this morning with a quote from one of my favorite hymns, Come Thou Fount. And it goes, prone to wander, Lord, I feel this. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord. Take and seal it. Seal it for your courts above. Sometimes, for me especially, I get caught up in the motions of everyday routine. And I'm going along and I find myself checking off the boxes, even the boxes of reading my Bible and having my prayer time. I forget of how sacred and holy those times can be. And they become part of my routine. I wanted today to remind us all to humble ourselves enough to look at our routines and see if our time spent with God is becoming just another box checked off. Are we coming to God in reverence, reminded of His goodness and His greatness? Psalm 145, verses 5 and 6 say, on the glorious splendor of your majesty and on your wonderful works I will meditate. They shall speak of the might of your awesome deeds, and I will declare your greatness. See, sometimes when we get stuck in routine, I think we are prone to forget how good He is. I mean, glorious splendor, majesty, wondrous works. Speak of the might and awesome deeds. I forget to meditate on those things. Those are characteristics of God that help us when life kind of becomes humdrum. I mean, I am a mom of 3, and routine is important and keeps all of us sane. But sometimes in our routine, I forget to meditate on the wondrousness of God and the miraculous deeds that He acts even in our own day-to-day life. I am prone to wander. I am prone to forgetfulness. So as we enter into worship today, I suggest that we all meditate on His wondrous works, His great deeds, and all that He has given us in life. Don't forget to get your communion. If you don't have it with you, go ahead and grab that now and join us in worship. We are so glad you're here today.
So let's get right into it today. I want to look at the red letters, the statements of Jesus, and in Matthew chapter 23, there's a story of Jesus where he is teaching his followers, and he says these words: "For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." The Apostle Peter said that pretty much the same way in chapter 5 of 1 Peter. "Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time." Jesus, Peter, James, the Apostle Paul, they all say the same thing: humble yourself. Place yourself in the proper context, the proper order of simple, modest importance in relationship to God and to other people. Look, you can go to the dictionary and read all sorts of different definitions and angles and so forth to humility and humbleness, but it really just gets down to placing yourself in the right context so that God and others can be above you. And we're going to talk more about this a little bit next week, especially the relationship of humility to other people. But for today, I just want to talk about humility in general. Let's do this. I kind of take a test. Right now, you do this. Humble yourself. Go ahead. Right now, humble yourself. Do it. It's kind of a funny thing. Humility is not something that we can achieve on our own. Honestly, it is completely futile to say, you can do it. Go, be proactive, take the first step, grab the bull by the horns and be humble. Go, be humble right now. It is a virtual impossibility to make that happen. You see, genuine humility, as is with true faith, it is not a self-help. It's not a life hack that somehow we are able to set into motion. Rather, humility is more a response. And in particular, it's a response to the greatness and the compassion of God. That's where humility begins. That awareness that He is worthy of praise and we're not. He is to be the object of worth. We are not. And that He is all-powerful and all-knowing, and we aren't. But make no mistake in this consideration of humility. We do have a part or a role that we play in our own humility. It is not only an effect, but it is a command of God. to humble ourselves. Over and over again in the Bible, as well as in life, humbling ourselves is not something we initiate, but it is something that we receive. Humbling ourselves is the act of running to, rather than running from being humbled. However, we don't necessarily teach ourselves to be humble. There isn't a 5-step plan for becoming more humble in the next week, or even the next month, or even the next year. But there is action to take. That's what I want you to get today. There is a response to be given, a human response in the direction of building humility in our lives. How do we really begin to be people of humility? How are we to go about obeying the command that comes right from the mouth of Jesus himself to humble ourselves? The truth is, humiliation is going to find us. Those situations where we find ourselves powerless to control the outcome, those situations are right around the corner. They may be happening to you today, right now in your life. Trust me, you don't ever have to pray to be humbled. Opportunities will present themselves to you every day. So what is our response? When the Bible says to humble ourselves, what is the next step? What can we do? What can you do in order to obey the command to humble yourself? I'll say this, that there is so much that could be said. Let me just encourage you with this today. I think that humbling ourselves begins with right thinking, with a change of mind. The Apostle Paul would call it the renewing of the mind. That begins with the transformation of our spirit inside when we come to know Jesus. Try this. We need to begin regular daily contemplation of the greatness and the expansiveness of God. Yeah, I know we're to read our Bibles daily, and we are to pray daily, or even moment by moment we are to do those things. But I'm not so sure we are contemplating the greatness of God all the time in those moments. The fact that He sustains the universe by His Word. I am absolutely convinced that humility starts with seeing God as big enough, bigger than, in relationship to who we are in the world in which we live. And while we're at it, how about if we spend some regular time contemplating our own human frailty and limitations and sin, and how those things compare to the mercy and the grace of God that is extended to us? How about if we think about those things more often? We are a community of doers. We like 6 steps to this and 5 steps to that, and what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I'm not so sure that we can ever attain any measure of humility in our lives if that is the path that we are trying to walk, if that's the path we are choosing. I think the path to humility is much more one of passiveness, of contemplating and considering God and not us, and then our relationship to Him as we consider Him. I had a CAT scan this week, and it's if you've never had one, it is a humbling experience to just to lay there and to be rolled into this massive tube and to be hooked up to things, knowing that I didn't have any control of the outcome of what those photographs were going to say in this part of my chest. As somebody who's had heart surgery, this is something that I have to do, and it's, I can control certain things in my life, but once I was laying on that contraption and I went in there, I couldn't change anything. I couldn't change anything about it at all. We need to remember that we have an inability ultimately to control a single thing in this life. Not our heartbeats, not our finances, not the blessings or the challenges we encounter. Yeah, we can control a little bit, by how we eat and how we exercise and how we drive and how we manage our money and all of those things. But we are only controlling it a fraction. Everything about our lives is ultimately out of our control. And we all have stories about that, how our lives are out of control, out of our own control, or our loved ones are out of our control, and we spend the majority of our life reacting to the things that have happened around us. We need to find contentment in our relative smallness and insignificance in order to make room for the rightful and significant place of others in our lives, and that every good gift, every good thing that we have ever received is a gift from God, who is greater than everything. I guess for this moment, I'd like to encourage you to make room in your life to admit that you are weak, that we are all subject to temptation and unhealthiness and damaging choices, and that we are inconsistent, and we are blinded by the logs in our own eyes and fueled by the belief that we can do things on our own. We carry that baggage with us all the time, and yet we are never ever more than a heartbeat away from having to face the reality that we are out of control of our own lives. That is a humbling awareness. So, finally, today, as we come to communion, I want to encourage you to remember to see the act of Jesus dying on the cross as the supreme act of both humiliation and humility, the final surrender of all his power and all his reputation and all his life and breath in this conclusive act of placing the needs of others above his own rights and his own privilege. And today, remember that in the juice and in the bread, we see the symbols of the one who conquered death, who defeated evil, and who rescued a bunch of reckless rebels like you and me from our own self-destruction. And he continues, even in this very moment, to lead us down the path of humility. This is a good celebration today. Will you join me?
Oh, I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. Oh, and I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I've known we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, 'cause you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. 'Cause you are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. 'Cause you are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. Oh, this love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love, love, you're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am.
It's been good to be with you again today. It is still a really cool thing to know that this point of connection that we have is a good thing for you also. I know it is for me. I just look forward to this moment. It is so good. I hope you have a great week ahead of you. Walking in humility is not an easy thing. But I'm confident that Jesus wouldn't have commanded it if he wasn't going to be faithful to lead us through it. Live with confidence in that promise, as well as all of his promises, and in the strength of his example that you are following this week. Humble yourselves, and you will find greatness in his kingdom that is way, way more fulfilling than any greatness you can pursue on your own. Till next time, see you.
I love this song. Who are we that you would be mindful of us? What do you see that's worth looking our way? We are free.